Raw TV, Real and Willing Television. I'm Rebecca Vargas.
And I'm Michael Steiner. Now tonight we're going to be talking about endurance through trials. And the big question is, why do bad things happen to good people? It's hard for our brains to wrap around how, even though we go through tragedy and sickness and disease, God still loves us and cares about us. We have to make the decision to follow after God. Otherwise, we'll lose our connection to the one person who can get us through anything.
Yeah, we're going to be hearing incredible stories of God's miraculous work in the lives of 3 people. And what we do know is God is still performing miracles. And Rocky, Katie, and Kayla are living proof of this. So let's meet our first guest, Rocky Castro.
Hi, my name is Rocky Castro. I am 23, and I was born with a muscular and joint disorder named spinal muscular atrophy. I am here today due to my family and the strength and will that they have given me, and by the grace of God. And for a little baby who was told to be dead at 2 weeks, I am now 23.
Welcome back. We are on the couch with Rocky Castro. Rocky, thanks so much for coming on with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. So first off, tell us about your story. Tell us your illness.
Well, I have a muscular and joint disability called spinal muscular atrophy. Had it since birth. My mother had tumors in her stomach at birth, and they take up a lot of space and the amniotic fluid that a baby needs to grow. You know, you need, in the womb, you move around and stuff like that. I didn't have the ability.
Wow.
Literally, when I came out of my mother's womb, I was in a shape of a pretzel. My legs were twisted up behind me, and my arms were wrapped down this way.
Wow.
I mean, I don't remember that, but pictures show, and it's like, wow. So from there, it's, you know, a lot of surgeries, several surgeries. I've had a total of 16 surgeries throughout my lifespan. Therapy upon hours upon therapy, just, you know, trying to get the muscles working again, moving the ligaments and joints, and, you know, just getting the body moving again, and, you know, just things to get the body going. I had club feet as a baby, which your feet actually twist out. You name it. It was just a lot of things at birth that, you know.
Yeah.
So.
What did the doctors say of your, like, diagnose you with when you first came out? Looking like a pretzel, what was their first diagnosis of you?
They told my mother not to even name me. They said, "We're sorry to tell you this, but your child most likely won't live past 2 weeks. Don't get attached. Don't care. You know, it's hard, but, you know, he's not going to live." And I'm 23 years now, so.
It's a miracle, it really is.
So what was it like coming up through high school with all the different things? We know you were involved in kind of different stuff there.
High school was fun. I mean, you know, I never kind of let it get me down. I always try to be involved as much as I can. You know, you get the haters who are like crippled, or, you know, I've gotten Meals on Wheels, and, you know, and I didn't take it. Not to be mean or anything, but I knocked out my first kid in, I think it was my 6th grade. You know, I was just standing by a window, and he decided to give me grief. And I was like, I can't take this anymore. So I swung, and so
and you got him?
I got him.
Well, there you go.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and I try not, you know, it's just, you can only take so much, and, you know, but, you know, I had a lot of friends, and, you know, they never saw me as someone in a wheelchair. In fact, I had so many times they'd be like, "Come on, Rock, are you coming?" And I'd be like, "There's stairs there. You're going to carry me up the stairs?" They're like, "Oh, sorry, we forget." So, you know, you get the good people, and that's what really helps you go on. It's just like, you know, you're still a person. Just because you have a disability doesn't mean you're a lesser being.
Has there ever been a time when you just felt like giving up on God or turning back, or is He really your foundation that helps you get through?
He is. He's the reason why I'm alive. I mean, I would not be alive today if it wasn't for Him. You know, prayers of my family and loved ones just, you know, kept my family going and kept me going. You know, if my parents at a young age wouldn't take me to therapy or kept working with me, I would become stagnant and would have died. You know, but since they had faith, and then instilled that faith into me as a young child, and, you know, brought me up in the church, you know, it gave me that greater feeling that, yes, you know, despite what I may be going through, I can do it. So.
Now, we know that you sing and you're part of the arts and stuff. Tell us about how that all worked out and developed with you.
Well, the funny story with that is, you know, on top of the disability, I have horrible hearing.
Really?
I've literally had a hole in my eardrum one time. I had to have a surgically fixed, and the doctors still don't know why I'm able to keep a tune.
And he's an amazing singer. Trust me, he's awesome. You hear him all over campus, so that's a miracle in and of itself.
It is. It's funny. It's just those weird little things that show that God is there and that He
Yeah.
is graceful.
It's
and
like a blessing in
it
disguise,
is.
but it's not
Right.
even in disguise.
It is. It's amazing, and it's just great. Like I started singing when I was young. You know, children's choir at church and stuff like that. It wasn't really until middle school that I got deep into it. I went to an art school at middle school. Was part of the choir. Did a lot of solos. Did competitions.
Wow.
Did more in high school. High school, I was in another art school because the middle school and high school were joined, and did a lot of competitions, sang different places, was part of an a cappella group there, So singing is my passion. I love singing, People do certain things when they're down. I sing. I'll go find a quiet area and sing, and that's just what lifts me up, so.
Awesome. So tell us about this adorable puppy.
My hairy four-legged friend here, Eeyore.
Eeyore is his name. How cute.
Yes, Eeyore. I got him, it'll be 2 years now in the summer, and he's part of a program called Canine Assistance. And basically it's a program where they raise dogs and train them to help individuals with disabilities. Eeyore here, besides being a great companion, just a loving friend, because dogs are just amazing. He can help me pick up things, can go for help, tug open things, stuff like that. And he's just a great friend, companion through it all. Very protective, and very attached.
Aw.
Anyone tries to pull him away from me, it's like, no, we'll drag him back to
That's
me.
awesome, though.
So, yeah.
That's
You
awesome.
get to have him with you all the time.
So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who might be going through these kind of issues that you're sharing? Like what would you tell them?
Don't give up. I mean, it may seem hard, but life's not easy. Get a helmet. It's tough, but there's so much more to live towards, so much more to go for, Find your passion, the thing that you love, and strive for it, Just go forth and do the things that you want to do in life and hold on to the faith. I mean, I don't know how people without faith would do it,
Yeah.
so.
What are your future plans and your goals? What have they told you? of your
Doctors,
diagnosis?
they
future.
they haven't really given me a set. I could live a happy life. I could hit a critical point where I get sick and die. It happens to everyone. So my disability is degenerative, but it's at such a small rate that they didn't catch it when I was young. So I mean, it does affect me, but
Yeah.
I live forward. I'm graduating from here in 3 weeks now.
Wow, that's
so-
amazing. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
what's your major? What are you planning on doing?
I'm a criminal justice major, and I plan to go off to law school after this.
Thank you, Rocky, so much
Thanks
for
so
talking
much
with us.
for
You're
coming
such
on.
an inspiration, and congratulations on graduating. It's going to be amazing. But now we're going to hear our next guest, Katie Thomas.
Hi, my name is Katie Thomas. In November 25th of 2008, my brother went to heaven after battling cystic fibrosis for 26 years. After that, 6 months later, I was diagnosed with cancer, Ewing sarcoma, and my sinuses growing upwards towards my brain.
Welcome back. We are on the couch now with Katie Thomas. Katie, thank you so much for joining us and stuff. So why don't you go ahead and tell us your story?
All right, it's kind of long, but I'm going to condense it.
It's okay.
No problem.
Yeah, I was a senior here at Southeastern, and everything was going great. It was wonderful, enjoying life. And my brother became ill. He was sick. He had a disease called cystic fibrosis, and he was admitted to the hospital. And 7 weeks later, my world changed. He went to heaven after battling for 26 years this disease, and my world just crashed. And then the grass started looking a little greener, the sky a little bluer after all that depression and everything. I graduated, and then 6 months later, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a tumor in my sinus cavity that was growing towards my brain, just like freaky sci-fi stuff, rare, and it just was like the one thing after another. Just bam.
Like, what is happening? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So how did you even know that you just went to the doctor all of a sudden, or how did you know that you had cancer, or did you have pain?
Well, no, I was packing up all my stuff to move back home, and I had like a bazillion things of lotion. I'm like, I might bring this back home.
Yeah.
And so I started smelling them to see which ones I wanted to keep, and I'm like, I can't smell. I'm like, does lotion go bad?
Yeah.
Like, I'm running around my house to my roommates like, smell this, smell this. Do you
Yeah.
smell it? And they're like, yeah, we can smell it. And I'm like, I can't smell. And so I just thought it was my sinuses or something. And after about a month and a half after I moved back home, I was like, this is weird. I'm going to go to the doctor. And they did some scans, and it was a massive
Oh my gosh.
tumor in my sinuses, eating through the bone between
wow.
my sinuses and my brain. And which actually is a miracle that it grew up. If it would have grown out, I could have been blind.
Yeah.
So that space is so small. So, I mean, that in and of itself, I mean,
Yeah.
is a miracle that it grew the way it did, even though towards the brain sounds
Yeah.
scary.
And tell us about the process of treating it and going through all that.
It was a process. I was diagnosed. I had a biopsy done on a Monday. By the next week, I was in Pittsburgh having surgery. And this just wasn't like a normal surgery. Up until about 5 years ago, it was basically inoperable. I mean, they would have to cut you from ear to ear, take out your forehead. I mean, if you survived the surgery, it was, you know, good.
Considered, like,
yeah.
good.
But they came out with this new technology, and only, I'd say, 3 or 4 hospitals in the country had it where they could go endoscopically through your nose. And so we found him, and he did it, and it was 11, 12-hour surgery. And then I was in Pittsburgh for several weeks recovering. And then I came back, and I had to start chemo, and then I did radiation. I did chemo for 1.5 years, and then radiation for 8 weeks in between.
So, being a young girl, you're only 23 now, right? And I mean, I'm 20, and that's just crazy. I can't imagine. What did it feel like the first time you were told you had cancer? What is that? How, like, your whole life is turned upside down. What does that feel like?
It's weird. It's after dealing with the loss of my brother and him going to heaven, I was just completely destroyed. And so at that point, when the doctor brought the scans up, I mean, my mom is weeping beside me, and I couldn't even cry about it. I mean, it's like, all right, you know, here I go. I'm going to do what I have to do. And I learned through everything with Garrett that God doesn't make mistakes. So the devil didn't give me cancer. Like, God allowed it to happen, and I just deal with it. So I'm like, I'm young. I can fight this. I can go, and I can do the best that I can in God's name to bring him the glory. And so that's what I did. So in a way, it took me back. I was ready to live my life and not be sad anymore. So that was hard. But when you make up your mind to do something, you just do it. And with God's strength, you just go for it.
Now, how was your family through the whole thing? You said something about your mom earlier. So
Yeah.
Can you tell us how they
My
reacted?
parents, I know everyone thinks I have great parents, but mine are the picture of what you would want as your parents. Their strength and their love, even though they had lost my brother, and then having me go through this, it's like, I mean, I can't even imagine they were still standing, but they did. They were with me every step of the way. Every time I had to stay in the hospital to get my chemo. So every other 2 weeks, there I was. My mom had a little cot that she rolled beside my bed. She was there with me all the time, and it was like one of those things where you could feel so alone going through that because no one else knows what you're going through. But having my parents there, they were just incredible, just strength for me when I didn't have any.
Now, talking about the chemo, as a young woman too, you losing your hair and that
Yeah.
self-confidence. How did you deal with that? How does that feel? I
It
can't imagine.
was-
Like,
Yeah, it's like I think it's the anticipation leading up to it. Like I can't. Whenever I see like Extreme Home Makeover and there's like a cancer patient and like they're bought, I just immediately start crying.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, oh no, like how am I gonna deal with this?
Yeah.
But I was like, you know, I can make this a positive experience or a negative experience. So I'm just gonna go for it, you know? Mr. Clean's pretty cute. I can be a pretty cute ball too. So I was like, I can deal with this. So when it happened, happened really fast. And so I'm like, Mom, get the scissors. Like, it's coming off. So it was hard, but then I got a great wig.
It is
so,
awesome.
thanks.
You don't
It
have
tricks
to
a
really
lot
do
of
your
people.
hair. Does it-
This is great. I'm like, I don't care if my hair comes back. It's always done.
Yeah,
so.
I hate doing my hair.
You know, like at the end of the day, it's like a
Yeah.
long day, and you just, you feel
like whenever I'm
gross.
done.
Yeah, I don't have to like wash my hair. I just take it off, and I'm like, I feel free. So it's
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah. So it was hard because as a girl, you just want to feel pretty, but at the same time, when you know that your beauty comes from God and the way He sees you is what matters, and plus, I pretty much lived in a cave in my room for 1.5 years. I didn't see that many people, but it was hard. But then just trying to stay positive, I think, is the best medicine for that.
So how did you keep your faith in God, like trusting Him through all this? I mean, like losing your brother and then finding out you had cancer and then going through all the issues of chemo. Like how did you keep strong through
God
all
and
that?
I weren't too good after Garrett.
Yeah, just questioning him.
Yeah, it's almost like I had faith. I believed, you know, how do I even begin to believe you to have a miracle in my life when I felt like He let me down?
Yeah.
But after really trying to just not want to deal with God at all, I realized that even when I was pushing Him away, He was pulling me closer. He was bringing people in my life, loving on me, and I just knew that He was my only strength. He's the only person that understands what I'm going through. And when I'm down, He lifts me up, and I'm like, all right, God, you know, I can trust You because You don't make mistakes, and You love me. And whether or not it's to heal me on this earth or heal me by taking me to heaven, I trust You. And I mean, it's all about the trust.
It's amazing to
Yeah.
see your strength, and you're so courageous.
thank you.
It's awesome. But tell me,
Thanks.
what kind of advice would you give to someone that's lost a loved one, or someone that's a friend of someone that's lost a loved one, or is facing cancer, or someone detrimental, and just what they can do for them?
It's tough because I've always wanted to like give out little like nuggets of wisdom to people, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
here, feel better with this quote, like or this Bible verse,
Yeah.
or Jesus loves you, and it doesn't work. Like,
Yeah.
I just look at people like, you've got to be kidding me. Like
Yeah.
some of the cards I get, I'm like, you're so insensitive.
Yeah.
But I would say to people, just be there. And if they don't return your phone calls or your texts, just love on them the best that you know how. And there aren't any words that can comfort someone when they're going through something. It's just having them feel loved. I felt so loved just by people writing on my Facebook wall and just being there for me. That's the best. Don't try to come up with sayings.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Well, thank you so much, Katie, for
Yes.
coming on
I
and
know, you're
sharing
Incredible
welcome.
story,
your
and
story.
you're beautiful, and you're such a strong woman. I aspire to be like that.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Now, when we come back, we're going to be on the interview set with Kayla, so don't go away.
Hi, my name is Kayla Lund. I'm 21 years old, and at 17, I was in a PVS state coma. I had epilepsy, and I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré.
Welcome back, you guys. We are here with Kayla. Thank you so much for sitting down with us
thank
to share your
you.
testimony. So tell us a little bit about what you faced and your illness now, because it wasn't an illness before, but now kind of was.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Out of nowhere, it started when I was 15. It's a long story, but we'll rein it in. When I was 15, I was driving, trying to get those hours in so I could get my license.
Yeah.
And with my whole family on the highway in Columbus, and it was a rainy day. And I had been feeling kind of nauseous in my head and my stomach that whole day. Just thought maybe it was a bug, a virus.
Yeah.
And I'm driving, 6 of us in the car. And all of a sudden, I'm just like, Mom, I'm not feeling good. We're going like 70 at this point. I'm like, Mom, I'm not feeling good. We need to slow down. She's like, okay, start pulling over. There was an accident up ahead. So we were like, yeah, just start pulling over. There's an accident anyways. And my mom was like, I'll take over. Well, before I could even pull over, I went into a seizure. And it was 15 minutes long. We had no clue my mom knew that it was a seizure because you see that stuff on TV
Yeah.
and the grandma seizures and the shaking and the stiff limbs. but never had it ever happened to me. So it just came out of nowhere. My family was really scared, but my mom is so strong. She kept it together, and my feet like stiffened out and my legs stiffened out onto the gas pedal.
Oh, no.
And so my mom was able to reach over and step on the brake and pull over. And my dad was able to call the cops that were up ahead at the accident. So they were coming to get me and took me to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, I was still in a seizure this whole time. And if you know anything about seizures, they shouldn't go past 5 minutes or it's permanent brain damage. But we didn't know. So the doctors at first were like, this cannot be a seizure because it's still happening. And then they did say that that's what it was, but they didn't diagnose me with epilepsy at that time when I was 15 because they just said maybe it was a fluke thing. So 2 years go by, no more seizures. I'm
Really
doing
fine.
great. I'm going through high school. I'm, doing my thing, getting through life. And out of nowhere, when I was 17, my mom, my senior year of high school, my mom had just gotten back from unsuccessful brain surgery where basically the doctor said there's nothing else we can do for her. There's no blood getting to her brain, and she's going to slowly die, lose her senses, and die. So we're at that point, and my family's just trying to press through. And I'm preparing dinner for my family, and I get that same feeling in my head and my stomach. And I remembered it from when I was 15, and I was like, oh no, and I'm carrying the dishes, and I fall and have another seizure. And I just kept having them more and more. They were getting more frequent, and they were getting longer.
That same
And
night or just other days?
Just more days.
Oh,
This was
okay.
in November, and so from November until January, I had more and more seizures. They were getting more and more frequent.
Okay.
And so I went to the hospital. They diagnosed me with epilepsy and put me on medicine. And there was one night where I had a really bad seizure. It was over 30 minutes long. And I was on the medicine, and I woke up the next morning completely paralyzed. From head to toe, couldn't move anything. I was moaning for my mom to come in the room. It was almost where your body goes into shock to where you don't have time to be scared because you're just like in survival mode,
yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
So my mom reads on the medicine, and it said extreme muscle weakness. So we were thinking, on top of that seizure that I just had, which I wasn't able to really move after having a seizure anyways because it's so strenuous on your body, and the medicine, maybe both of those together. So we waited, and for 9 days I was paralyzed, and my parents were carrying me around, and the doctors put me on a new medicine, but nothing was getting better. And then one time I got the flu within those 9 days. And so I was staying in my mom and dad's bedroom, sleeping in their room, and I woke up and got sick and started having another seizure. And so my dad just said, okay, we got to take her to the hospital right away. This is not supposed to be happening. I was on a very high dose of medicine. So they get me in the car. We drive an hour and a half away to the hospital. On the way there, I had 3 more seizures. Then they take me straight to the trauma ER room where I had 5 more back to back, and they couldn't stop it. They were giving me every medicine they knew how.
So how long were they lasting?
That was straight
Oh,
for
okay.
that, yeah. It was like I would come out of a seizure for maybe a minute and go back into one in the car ride. They were just the whole time there. I don't really even remember it. It was just, I'm just in another state.
So how long were you in the hospital for?
Well, it was in that time where I was having all of those seizures that I went into a coma because they couldn't stop it, and so they induced the coma, but it was only supposed to last 8 hours, and I didn't come out of it. And then my system started shutting down, so they figured it was more than just the seizures. They knew that there was going to be permanent brain damage, that I should be mentally a vegetable because of all the seizures. It's like sparks going off in your brain. And then they diagnosed me while I was in a coma. They diagnosed me with Guillain-Barré, did a spinal tap, and found out that I had Guillain-Barré. And it's your immune system attacks your nervous system. So that was where the paralysis came from. So they basically told my parents I was in a PVS state, permanent vegetated state, which people don't come out of. And they basically asked my parents to start praying about, or thinking about, they didn't use the words pray, but they prayed about if you should pull the cord. And my mom and dad just kind of stayed by my side for 4 days and prayed and wouldn't leave. And the nurses finally said, why don't you guys go get some rest? So they went to the hotel and got some rest. And as soon as they did, they get a phone call from one of the nurses, and they're like, you might want to get down here. Your daughter's doing something funny. We don't know what's going on. So they come back to the hospital, and they said that my hands were raised and that I was singing hallelujah while I'm on life support and IVs and feeding tubes. So it was a complete miracle of God, one after the next. And I'm very blessed. So after that, I will try to condense this. After that, they said, wow, this is just amazing. So I was still like in a coma state. I don't remember that. It was completely God. I don't remember that. But so my parents came back and they're like, we are not pulling the cord. She's going to be okay. And they just had a peace about it.
Yeah.
And so it was about 3 days later, they moved me up to the neurological wing. And I was still completely paralyzed, but I was to the place where I could breathe on my own, and the doctors could not believe it. It was just a miracle and a testimony to everyone in the hospital. And then there was one day where I remember I was like, I'm going to sit up in bed on my own today, and so I did. And then they decided to move me to, and this was all like within the month of January.
Oh, okay.
And then they decided to move me to the physical therapy wing, where I learned how to walk again and read and write.
So no brain damage.
No. Yeah, the doctors, I mean, I forgot a lot of stuff. I forgot how to tie my shoes. I forgot how to walk. Like, I couldn't tell my legs what to do. But it was so just hard but rewarding every day, relearning how to do things.
Right.
So, and here I am.
Incredible.
Amazing.
It really is an awesome story, and you just said it all right in there. I don't have to even say anything. It's amazing. You're a living miracle.
Well, thank you so much, Kayla, for coming on and sharing your testimony. And for anybody at home, we'd like you guys to know that God will see you through any kind of trial. If any of these testimonies have said anything, it's that God sees us through everything and can push us through and keep going. So don't lose faith. Don't lose hope. Hold on and pray, and God will get you through it.
Yeah. So just, as always, don't forget to live it raw.
Live it raw.
They said, we're sorry to tell you this, but your child most likely won't live past 2 weeks. Don't get attached. Don't care. You know, it's hard, but, you know, he's not going to live. And 23 years now, so.
God's name to bring him the glory. And so that's what I did. So in a way, it took me back. I was ready to live my life and not be sad anymore.
They said, wow, this is just amazing. So I was still like in a coma state. I don't remember that. It was completely God. I don't remember that. But so my parents came back and they're like, we are not pulling the cord. She's going to be okay. And they just had a peace about it.